does not recognize genetically modified food as real food. He developed a whole kit where he buy it. It has a whole kit of artificial, things that have like Wheaties or cornflakes, and then they have an organic cornflake, and they put the cornflake vial in your hand and test you, and blows it out. Put one in it. It's just this together. And they both look the same, but one of them has modified stuff. One of them has modified stuff. I'm going. You see me say the same thing twice. Every time I touch my nose and say something, I know I have to do it again because I wanted to edit that out. Last time, did you notice?
Yes.
I'm always going like this with my nose. Yes.
We can always be sure by buying organic that we're not doing anything wrong.
Pretty much. You have to be careful what you buy always. They get tricky.
Yeah. They get really tricky. There's a movement in California. They're trying to get it put on the ballot to make it mandatory that anything that has GMO, genetically modified product in it, it has to be on the actual product label itself.
Okay, and you can imagine why they do that. They know that's the first step, and people will find that there is a difference between genetically modified stuff and real food, and that's the beginning of the end for them. They are fighting it with everything that they have, and it's not all open money. It's underneath. Mr. Taylor, who's been the food czar of the Obama administration, has been in trade for Monsanto for years, and he goes back and forth with the government to get paid by big bucks, and go back to government, and we get paid big bucks, back and forth. And of course, Obama promised, one of the things he promised was this open labeling thing that would be a little bit more, would be a lot more open and everything transparent. Well, particularly in that area, that he would back up the laws behind that, and he's done just the opposite. He's given Taylor over control over not FDA, but the agricultural department. And we spend $80 billion a year making corn syrup cheaper than cane sugar. I mean, we get subsidies to the farmers to do these GMO testing type stuff, $80 billion a year to make it cheap for them to raise things that they would never be able to do without that, to our detriment. They're supposed to be for us, but instead of now, there's no longer the husbandry that used to be there in the farming industry where there's people conscious raising the corn and soybeans, and even the few that are there, they have no rights. They have a cornfield and a soy field, and the guy next door is using Monsanto seed that is so bad that it won't reproduce itself. But it will, over a couple times, but it will go over and spread into his field. And now his seed, he can no longer use his own seed. He has to buy from Monsanto his own seed because it's been contaminated by the guy's field next door. Now that isn't about as fast backward as you can get. I don't know, but that's what's going on in our industry, in the industry of farming. So now the little guy can no longer have control, really can't compete, and so these big, huge conglomerates are being formed, the big business, agribusiness, and they're deciding what we can have. But if we can get them to have to label, in the meantime, work hard to buy heritage wheat instead of genetically modified. And they don't call it genetically modified because it's a little different. Because they don't use the BT toxin to do it quite the same. But the effect is the same. People are getting sick of wheat, and wheat is the staff of life, but not the kind of wheat that we made about 40 years ago. It's changed the whole farming. So the whole idea of what I'm talking about is we need to get real food, and when we supplement with things that are high in isolates of vitamins instead of the way they come in nature, we are using them as pharmacology. Well, that's not always I'm not saying that's a bad thing, But on the long term, we need to be real careful about that and realize that we're not really feeding our bodies for health. We're fighting some temporary thing with a pharmacologic type of approach to vitamins. Okay? Because I use some of those things sometimes too. But my first approach is one, proper sleep and water. Okay? Proper eating. Next. Chiropractic care. Next. Homeopathy. Next. Herbs. Next. Okay. And in that food proper eating, I mean whole food supplementation, because that is the raw materials that we need in order to do things. And when I say homeopathy, that includes laser, because we are basically doing homeopathy using frequency medicine, those cards. And we're getting the frequencies into the body, and that's a form of homeopathy. So laser and homeopathy are the same thing. So we need to get the raw materials and nutrients that the body recognizes and resonates with your body, so that you know that it's something you need. I don't have, well, these are not the actual products. Oh, we don't need products. So let's come up for just a minute. Let's see about your have a way of Morphagenics. Oh, this is another thing I have to say. I don't usually test people. That's for your benefit. And it is for me to check myself. I check myself all the time to make sure that I'm healthy enough to test you. Okay. But I can test with my fingers the same as testing with your arm, because this electromagnetic energy intersects with us. So when I come up to you and I meet you for the first time and say, oh, Dr. Ray, you can kind of get a sense of this guy is a charlatan and a cheat, and I want to stay away from him as far as I can. Or, gosh, he looks smart. I used to know him in high school. Or, I mean, there's kind of a comfort zone about meeting somebody, and you can feel that with your aura. Okay, so there's an inner working between people. And so if I'm focused, and I have to be focused, I can't be, when I'm doing something with that. You might have me test you 3 times in the same thing, and that's kind of what happened. Somehow I'm getting distracted, and I'm not focusing. I have to be focused, but if I'm focused, my oral field will intersect with theirs, and I can test with my fingers instead of testing with the water. And that's something that I had to do with some training. You have to train yourself. There's no way to train you to do that. But you have to become sensitive to what to be looking for and how to do that. But basically, I'm trying to hold my hand with my fingers tight together and hold them. If they slide off, it's because I can't hold it, because something happens weakness-wise and it slides off. So when I test, I can test here, and it's the same as if I tested. So let's return that way. So turn that way. Turn that way. Okay, maybe a little bit less right over here. Feels about right here. This is right. Okay, so that's maybe a 1.5 foot difference. So you might have something over here that's generating the field that's a little bit different. So what we do, because we're not really, we're not as smart as probably white. We're not quite as smart as all these medical doctors out there with law. So what we do, there's a good little story about that. We were taught the very first day of the chiropractic school, the philosophy class. It says, I want you to understand the power that you really have as a chiropractor. And it has to do with the philosophy and the knowledge that you want to learn. Since there was a chiropractic student from Palmer College that lived in Western, and a Harvard med graduate that lived in Western, and they, did this thing, and the chiropractic students started to walk out without washing their hands. And the Harvard med student said, at Harvard they taught us to wash our hands. And the chiropractic student said, no, Palmer taught us not to beat our hands. So sometimes all the knowledge in the world can be, overcome by just having some common sense. Using some basic common sense instead of just know it all and then not really know what you're doing. So we learned that instead of knowing everything in the world about his body with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of testing and chemical tests, etc., us lowly chiropractors, we just say, well, what does your body want? Okay. And so we can take all of these vials all at one time. You understand that? And we can take this right over here, and I can tell he's pretty healthy. He doesn't need a darn thing. Nothing in here does he need. Or at least during the current. You do find that there are things that happen that hide things in the body. And so you have to unpeel things later in the time sometimes. But right off the bat, he's pretty healthy, and he doesn't have any need for anything. And he doesn't have any need for anything because the body rejects all these things.